times are you expecting me to save you, mister?
Come on, what are friends for? I'm just trying to help you build up your confidence.
Donghua.
Wait! Before you said Donghua, what does that mean?
It means you are cool.
Oh no!
Like Resident Evil Survivor, Dead Aim is not what I call a good title, but it's got this goofy charm about it that I can't help but enjoy. It's very much a game of its time. There's something about it that screams 2003, the year it was released. It's a title of a series in transition, moving away from that classic style of Resident Evil towards how Resident Evil 4 would shape the future of the series. It's a pit stop in between the two styles. It's not an essential title to check out in this series, but you could do worse. It has its moments and merits. So if you're a cool guy or girl, let's take a gander at Dead Aim.
Fast.
Resident Evil Dead Aim is the fourth entry in the Gun Survivor series. Resident Evil Survivor was the first title. The second title was Resident Evil Survivor 2 Code Veronica. This title had both an arcade release and a PlayStation 2 release in 2001. It released in Japan and Europe, but not in North America. There's not a ton to say about this one. It's a basic light gun shooter set in the events of Code Veronica. Nemesis pops up if you're too slow, which is a nice novelty. The third entry in the Survivor series was Dino Stalker, set in the Dino Crisis universe. I'll come back to this one at a later date when I look at the Dino Crisis series. And then there's Dead Aim, the fourth and final title in the Gun Survivor series, released in June of 2003. Development on Dead Aim was done by Cavia, a company that's been defunct since 2010. They were best known for their works on the Drakengard series and Nier. They would go on to make the enjoyable on-rail shooters Umbrella and Darkside Chronicles. Dead Aim would be their first crack at the Resident Evil series. Dead Aim takes a different approach to how it plays compared to past titles in the Survivor series. While moving around, the game is in third person. Shooting takes place in first person. You can make use of a light gun, a controller, or a mouse with a controller. Yeah, it's one of the rare games on the PS2 that is mouse compatible. I'm running this on an emulator with some upscaling and a widescreen fix. I ended up just using a controller. There were some workarounds for getting a mouse to work with the PS2 emulator PCSX2, but that was with older versions. And just playing with a controller, it's okay. Moving around works just fine, although it feels a bit stilted. It's a bit of a halfway point between the fixed camera of old and Resident Evil 4 in regards to how it controls. By default you run, but holding either L1 or L2 will slow you down. One for regular movement, one for strafing. I also have to know how awkwardly your character shuffles downstairs. The main issue with a controller comes from shooting. I found it a bit too sensitive aiming with the analog stick. Granted, this isn't the ideal setup. I found that felt better back in the first Survivor title. I did eventually get used to it, and it's not a deal breaker, but I could have used a sensitivity slider. What's notable about Dead Aim is you don't need to stop to shoot. You could also move around and shoot at the same time like a typical FPS. This is something the series would return to over a decade later. Most of the enemies we'll be dealing with in Dead Aim are the series staple at the time, zombies. I really like how these zombies act here. Moving at a slow enough pace, but still shuffling around that's not a guaranteed hit. The zombie moans are some of the better ones I've heard. Though I can't say the same about one of the bosses we face. More memorable for all the wrong reasons. If you hit zombies on the brain portion of the head, you'll score a critical hit and send them flying. It's extremely satisfying. This is something you could also do in Umbrella and Darkside Chronicles, although here there isn't a notification if you're hitting that sweet spot prior to shooting. We'll be facing other familiar faces like Hunters and a Tyrant, along with others who are unique to Dead Aim like the Glimmer. While the default pistol doesn't contain unlimited ammo, Dead Aim throws ammo your way like there's no tomorrow, so feel free to go trigger happy, or you could just as easily run past enemies. There's a very generous dodge mechanic here, especially when you compare it to the one from Resident Evil 3 Nemesis a few years prior to Dead Aim. There it could be a bit spotty to pull off. Here you could just hit the dodge button rapidly as an enemy approaches and you'll more or less dodge every time. Another aspect that differs with Dead Aim is its map and navigation. The map environment behave more like a Silent Hill title. This being a ship, there's a number of rooms that we won't ever be able to access. What's appreciated is that if you approach one of these doors, you don't need to try to open it. Notification will pop up saying the door can't be opened and your map is updated accordingly. While it's not a long game, it's nice that we don't have to constantly be checking every door by interacting with it. One thing that really stands out about Dead Aim is its atmosphere. There's a very lonely feeling to it. Most of the game has no music, instead just the droning of the ship in the background. This wasn't the first time that Resident Evil would make use of a ship for a setting. That would be Resident Evil Gaiden. It also wouldn't be the last, with Resident Evil Revelations being mostly set on a ship. But it's here at Dead Aim where it really nails that lonely feeling that few other titles in the series have matched, so props to the team here. And when the music does kick in, it's all great stuff. It's more electronic than prior titles in the series. And that save theme? Chef's kiss. It's extremely soothing and one of the better save themes in the series. And while I won't play it here as the music will get the video claimed, who could forget the Gunshot song done by the Japanese rock band Rise? Rise spelt with a Z because it's from that late 90s, early 2000s period of rap rock and nu metal. The song just screams early 2000s and I'm all for it. Like all Resident Evil titles, there is a level of cheese in Dead Aim. Characters, plot, and voice acting do contribute to the cheese, but it's not like the cheese of the first Survivor title.
Wait, am I Vincent?
Vincent, you are a murderer. A murderer!
No, this is me. I am Vincent. It was all my fault.
There are two unique aspects of cheese in Dead Aim. One comes from the in-engine cutscenes. The characters' necks are oddly proportioned. Not quite daddy long neck, but they are noticeably stretched out. And the game's greatest source of cheese? Well, it comes from something that is optional, and that is the dialogue subtitles, which are off by default. I've never been so glad to turn on subtitles. You know, sometimes in the game there might be a very slight difference between what's spoken and what the subtitles say. There are a number of times throughout Dead Aim where it's very different and leads to great levels of hilarity.
In any case, the United States will not be threatened, and we do not negotiate with terrorists.
If cooperation is too much to ask for on our first date, then might I suggest we simply stay out of each other's way?
Should have left by now. Somewhere in America, there's a kitten stuck in a tree, desperately needing your help.
Beauty and brains.
And you are just brawn.
All right, monster. It's payback time. Keep dreaming.
I've never really come across anything like it, and it helps Dead Aim stand out, if for all the wrong reasons. Turns out the original Japanese script was subtitled into English and was different from the voiceover script. Guess they ran out of time to fix it up to be consistent. But it adds such a goofy charm to the game that I can't help but love it. So if you do decide to play Dead Aim, don't forget to turn on those subtitles for some great laughs. Let's dig into the plot and some of the notable moments of Dead Aim, so spoilers ahead. This game takes place in September 2002, not long before Umbrella was shut down. The Umbrella ocean liner Spencer Rain has been hijacked by Morpheus Duval, a former employee of Umbrella. Morpheus Duval is such a perfect villain name for the early 2000s time frame.
Why you American spies choose to use such ugly guns is still a mystery to me.
Morpheus.
He's demanding a large ransom from the US and China, threatening to launch missiles loaded with the T-virus. A couple of agents from America and China are sent aboard the ship to deal with the situation. Dead Aim contains a small cast, with just 3 characters getting screen time. One being Bruce McGivern, who will play as a wisecracking American agent with a southern accent.
$5 billion.
The other character will play as at points is Fong Ling, a Chinese agent sent to deal with the situation on the ship.
Same business doesn't mean same side, Bruce McGivern.
So a wisecracker and a Chinese spy. Yep, Bruce and Fong Ling are more or less knockoffs of Leon and Ada. There's also that sexual tension present as well, but with a different ending compared to Leon and Ada.
Fong Ling, that's my name. And I don't deal freshmen. If you really want to help, then go home.
Fasty.
The cutscenes have that early 2000s feel with how they'll switch to slow motion at various points. I do enjoy how the first few minutes of Dead Aim keeps enemies to a minimum to give us time to get a feel for the game and build some atmosphere and tension. Then it has the classic case of pick up a key item, at which point zombies will rise in great numbers. Things play out here like you would expect. Navigate, find something to open up blocked paths, read some notes, and shoot some BOWs. There are no real puzzles though, unfortunately. As the antagonist, Morpheus has an obsession with beauty. One of the notes mentions he got cosmetic surgery prior to hijacking the ship. He injects himself with a serum that's a combination of the T and G virus, at which point turns him into a woman?
A scared little rat with an ugly, useless gun.
Morpheus?
Huh. So it turns out the ship has set a course to crash to a nearby island. Shouldn't they have noticed this earlier? The way Bruce reacts to this is how you'd react if you were taking a dump, only to realize there's no toilet paper left.
Oh no!
This abandoned island looks like it'd be a cool place to explore, except we skip all of it and end up in a sewer section, because of course we do. Luckily, it's fairly short, where you could just run past most enemies. China decides to agree to the demands of Morpheus, so Fong Ling is no longer needed, which leads to this amusing scene. Good thing she just had one tattoo. What would you have done if she had multiple ones, Bruce? We'll have a couple of fights of Morpheus in different forms to finish off the game.
Sorry, but my dance card is full.
And unlike the will they or won't they with Ada and Leon across a number of years and titles, Bruce gets to give it, or I'm sorry, the giver it to Fong Ling.
I belong to China.
Donghua, I'm truly an idiot after all.
You know what it really means?
I've been in your country once.
That was not in your dossier.
Unlike the Redfields, the McGivern bloodline will continue. Fong Ling gives them the biggest set of bedroom eyes. I haven't seen a game character give someone this since Tifa at the end of Advent Children, and they live happily ever after, assuming that's the case as they don't show up anywhere else in the series. Not that they really needed to. And that's a wrap for Resident Evil Dead Aim. Not a great title by any stretch, but it has a charm to it. It does have aspects really well done, like the lonely atmosphere. It's a bit of a transition title as well, moving away from the classic style of RE before the game changer that was Resident Evil 4, which released a year and a half later in early 2005. There are elements here that would pop up later in the series, some shortly after and some many years after. It's very much a title of its time, from how the cutscenes are shot to the rap rock. It's a relic of 2003 and I'm all for it. I won't think of you as an idiot if you decide not to check it out, but if you do, you may just be a cool guy or girl. Thanks for watching. Do all that stuff that YouTube likes. If you'd like to support the channel further, please consider checking out my Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Alright everyone, Boulder Punch out.
Oh, and since you saved me this time, I think I should say thanks.
Don't mention, I'm a Donghua after all.